Hello. If you read Unit 3 and still have some questions in your mind about the shape of a melody, perhaps this will help when you hear the examples. The Ode to Joy is an example of a conjunct melody. You can see how, for instance, this note called F sharp, it just goes, first of all it repeats and then it goes up just a step. So we call this, or I call this sometimes, stepwise progression. And when you have a melody that uses a stepwise progression, we call it conjunct. I love it when I hit two keys at one time, but I think you get the idea. Another example that they give of conjunct is The Joy to the World, a melody that you probably know very well. All right, and so again, in fact, Joy to the World is nothing more than a D major scale sung or played backwards from top to bottom. And so these are both examples of what we call conjunct melodies. Now, if you take a look at our national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner, they describe this as a disjunct melody. And that's because there are certain leaps. Here's a leap right here, 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 here. This is stepwise here. And then here's a big leap, and then more stepwise progression here. See if I can play this here. Hang on a sec. Got to go back to here and move this up to here. Come back to here. Get rid of that. All right, there we go. Now I just want to discuss this melody just a little bit, because deciding whether or not a melody is conjunct or disjunct is somewhat subjective, but you have to do a little bit of analytical listening and say, well, is it mostly conjunct or is it mostly disjunct? Now in this case, we only have two stepwise progressions, these three notes and these three notes, but the rest are pretty wide leaps comparatively. And so in general, although we could have a vigorous debate about it, shall we say, this would be a good example of a disjunct melody. Now that's the song Maria from West Side Story. And some would call this disjunct because of the first three notes. But others might call it conjunct because of the notes after it. Okay, so it is somewhat subjective when you decide whether or not a melody, in general terms, as a description, is conjunct or disjunct. Hopefully this